Hey everyone, Pam Gregory, astrologer. I would just today like to share some thoughts with you, some meanderings, if you like, on various topics which you know interest me. I hope I'm going to say them in a slightly different way, use different words, and I'm also adding in more information that's come to me around those topics. So there isn't a lot of astrology in this video, but nevertheless, I hope it'll be helpful for you and positive and optimistic for our future. So just a few days ago, I came across a wonderful quote from Eckhart Tolle, who said, "The new is here. The old is just making a lot of noise dying." And I think that is really true. And it's going to get louder. It's going to get noisier as the scenery in the theatre collapses in a major way, for sure. So we as humanity are going through this staircase of expansion. And we're turning away increasingly from our small contracted world, our 3D world, and opening up our hearts, opening up our vision to the cosmos to step more fully into our galactic citizenry. And I think some of us are really starting to feel that. And, we're all on different timelines, we're all evolving at different speeds, and absolutely no judgment here. Don't compare yourself to anyone else. Think of a yoga class, you run your own race. You are where you're supposed to be at this time. But nevertheless, broadly, the collective is moving towards expansion and heart expansion. And so in this staircase of consciousness that we're going up, they're not even stairs. We're going in quantum leaps, if you like. And we're all getting closer gradually to our multidimensionality, to our sense of greater connectedness to all living beings and our psychic sensitivity. We're moving from being Homo sapiens, where we've been all of our lives, to Homo luminous, which is enormously exciting. And I think this process is really going to be very accelerated over the next 3 years with Saturn moving through Pisces. And so it's happening at speed. We have never ascended in physicality like this before, which is why it can get a bit dizzying for our adult physical systems. So we've had big jumps in surges of crystalline plasma, if you like, coming into our Earth's field. March 22nd was a big one, then the Aries equinox, then the Cancer solstice, 7th of July, heading towards now the Lion's Gate on the 8th of August, the Libra equinox, and ultimately the Capricorn solstice. These times when the veils are thinner to the higher realms are going to produce surges in our jumps in consciousness. And what we've also been able to create, and many spiritual people are talking about this, is new, higher timelines than we've ever had before, which of course bring with them bigger future possibilities. And we as humanity have created that. Nobody's done that for us. We as humanity, in raising our consciousness, have created those higher timelines, and we continue to do that, higher and higher timelines. And that's, again, hugely exciting. And as I've said many times, we're ahead of schedule on where we were expected to be at this time as we move towards the golden age. Now, I've often recommended getting together with like-minded people in a group where you feel your vibration is lifted. There are many groups around like that, but also at these particular times, getting together in mass meditations really magnifies the energy. And I've always felt that, but it was interesting. The brilliant physicist Nassim Haramein posted something this week, which he didn't actually write, but nevertheless he posted and therefore supported, was that when people come together, it isn't additive, it is exponential. It's not additive, it's not 1 + 1 = 2, it's exponential, i.e. the cumulative energy is like the Richter scale. It multiplies exponentially in a much greater way than we could expect from simply adding 1 + 1 = 2. So the importance of coming together in groups, and this is, of course, is Aquarian energy coming together in groups, communities, because they are forming the embryos, the templates for how society is going to develop from this point moving forwards. And we're not going to have leaders top down in the way we have had in the past. I think we've done that to death, and we're going to find innovators, progressives and visionaries from those grassroots groups who are going to step forward, and we are going to gather around and support their ideas. So this is the society of the future that we are already creating. People are coming together, they're forming little businesses and enterprises together. It's so reminiscent of the situation in France in 1789, with a whole restructuring, dramatic restructuring of society to become more equal. And that was socially, economically, but also in a sense of more power being given to the people. Well, I don't think we have to wait to be given power. With the North Node moving into Aries on right about the 18th of July, we are going to be stepping into our power, into our inner authority in a much bigger way. And that doesn't mean it has to be violent or assertive or nasty or shouty. It can be very centered. It can be super calm. But we are going to develop a much greater sense of our own power, center, anchor, and I know who I am. And we're going to be drawing boundary lines. We're going to be saying, this far and no further. I'm not going to agree to that. Kindly, peacefully, but nevertheless, a much clearer boundary, perhaps, than we've had in our past, where South Node in Libra, which begins on the 18th of July as well, the other end of the nodal axis, has been much more compliant. We're letting that go. So, as we know, or increasingly we understand, our own energy that we broadcast kind of interweaves with the plasma energy all around us. This invisible electromagnetic charge, divine intelligence is what it is, if you listen to my conversation with Professor Robert Temple. And either, if we're in a very positive state, produces beautiful symmetrical geometry to produce a beautiful reality tomorrow and the next day, or it's ugly and distorted and twisted if we're in negativity, hate, fear, anger, whatever. And I'd always seen that in my conversations with Professor Robert Temple. I'd seen this as a kind of energetic architecture of light, and it was really thrilling to listen to an extraordinary woman and exceptional cosmologist the other day, Dr. Jude Currivan, Currivan, who also described it as this kind of flicker. She described it as a flickering or sputtering of light in the plasma as the geometry starts to form, and then there's some really big scary thing in the collective, it all pulls back and the geometry collapses. But when we get together in a group again and we meditate, or we're on a very positive frequency, there's another surge in that sputtering, flickering potential geometry. It's all potentiality, where we are turning the invisible into the material. And with each surge of a mass meditation, or similar, with each surge, even coming together in a meeting, a discussion group, something very positive where you feel your vibration lift, that is creating surges in this potentiality of the architecture of light, which then ultimately becomes our reality. This is the quantum model. And so when we are in this state of positivity, when we're in love, joy, peace, gratitude, compassion, kindness, all of those emotions that produce a very coherent broadcast, if you like, we are actually altering the quantum wave structure. In physics terms, we are altering the quantum wave structure going forwards to create our future. And we are creating also new harmonics and new octaves of consciousness. And this is something, that's why I'm fascinated by the dwarf planets, the Kuiper Belt objects, because they do represent, I believe, a new octave of consciousness. In their archetypes, they are going to teach us about master manifesting. And Alan Clay, who runs the Dwarf Planet University, is doing some wonderful, wonderful work with the dwarf planets to research their archetypes. But he also is talking about this new octave of consciousness that in working with these dwarf planets, we are helping to bring into humanity. And it's actually only because humanity's raised its consciousness that we've even been able to discover them and start to research them. And so we are very well aware, I think, all of you, or if you're not, you can easily find this online, of Masaru Emoto's work with the crystals, how when people sent very positive emotion, love, joy, kindness, compassion to water samples, they then froze into exquisite symmetrical crystals. And equally, when the emotions were negative, they were ugly and distorted. Now, wonderful lady in New Zealand, Veda Austin, who, by the way, I'm very excited. I'm going to be interviewing her at the end of the month, and I'm over the moon that we're going to have a conversation, because I think her work is exquisite. And she's taken all of his work a huge step forward in describing water as living consciousness. Living consciousness, it's alive with divine intelligence. And we are constantly ingesting that and passing it through our systems, but our emotional state will change the structure and the nature of that water. And she is now having what she calls telepathic conversations with water, where she can imprint a thought or imprint an emotion into water samples and then freeze and get some beautiful, quite surprising results, that clearly the water has an intelligence. It's not just an echo, it's translated her emotion. It has an intelligence, and a divine intelligence, because all of plasma does have a divine intelligence. And she says that by molecular count, we are 99% water. So think of what your frequency is doing to every cell in your body, the water. And it's the water that holds the light. When you have water in your body that is structured and has been born of love, born of high frequency, it can hold more light. It's the water that holds the light in your body in order that we can embody more light. Dr. Zach Bush talks about this. So when we raise our consciousness, inevitably we are raising our coherence, because we can't have higher consciousness where we have incoherence, like interference on a television set where it's all jangled and jumbled. The two operate side by side, the two operate in step. And again, we access that by those wonderful emotions of gratitude, abundance, appreciation, joy, peace, compassion. And again, referring to Nassim Haramein on this, these are Nassim's words, that wonderful physicist. He said, when you rise in consciousness, that means the antenna of your body is more coherent, finely tuned to get more information out of the field. It's getting more of the high frequencies where there's more information. It's more coherent, so you can get channels you couldn't get before. He means channels of information you couldn't get before. And I know many of you are experiencing this already. And when we are in coherence, the heart's toroidal field expands. That again does wonderful things for our health. It infects other people. Well, we infect other people with our energy all the time, but we're infecting them much more widely with those positive emotions. Energy is always infectious. You cannot stop your energy. There's no boundary line for your energy. Because it just spreads in the plasma. And so what we're going through at the moment in society, this massive transition, is clearly massive chaos. Will the chaos increase? Absolutely. Will the churn, the instability, the crazy scenery collapsing, will all of that increase, the really big scary things? 100%, I'd say. Because of this principle in physics of high frequency energy always will dissolve lower. And so we have this kind of collapse in the old structures that we've lived with all of our lives. And this is related, as I say, to chaos theory and physics, that if you take, say you're just boiling a pan of water, so you take some cold water in a pan, and the cold water is in a very stable state. It's got a kind of mirror surface on it. And when you start to heat it and boil it, you can see the bubbles, and you can see that the water is gradually turning into steam. But it goes through a sort of chaotic process in changing its state. And equally, that's what we are doing, because as humanity, we are changing our state. And so at the 3D level, yeah, it's going to be crazy, particularly over the next 18 months, I would say. Pluto still hovering about the end of Capricorn and early Aquarius. Yeah, it's gonna be wild, but we don't have to live at that level, as I so often say. The more we can observe, be aware of what's going on in the world, but not emotionally engage with it. Because if you emotionally engage with it, you're very likely to emotionally engage with it in a negative sense. Can you believe this really big, that could be happening, or, gosh, it's unimaginable. Then we are on that lower timeline. We are on that trajectory of fear. So we have to pull back to our eagle's perch, and we have to, as far as we're able, stay in divine neutrality to observe, but actually our work is in creating. And I really, really want to say this is not about lacking compassion. I really want to say that super loudly. In fact, if you're in a state of divine neutrality, you're much more able, from that steady state of love, to help other people. And you can do that in 10 tons of practical ways. You can help your neighbor with shopping. You can walk her dog. You can help someone across the road. You can join a soup run or a food bank, or send money to war-torn places. There's so many practical and loving things we can do, just tiny things in our day, because we're not in an ivory tower, we're not in a cave, absolutely not, because the big determinants of whether you want a lower timeline or a higher, and again, no judgment in that, we all make our own choices, is, are you service to self principally? Are you interested in your own profit, in your own bank account, your own greed, or are you service to others? What can I do to help the community? Because increasingly, that's what these groups are doing. And the whole COVID lockdown really boomeranged, because once people could get together in that simple human connection, didn't matter their ages, their backgrounds, their status, their jobs, didn't matter. It was this precious human connection. And I think we value that more than we have ever done. It's just joyful. And that has never faded from, the time these groups started to come together. So we are more able to help other people. We are more able to share what resources we have, and we want to do that. That's the big difference. Whereas in the past, we might have said, no, I've worked very hard and this is mine. We actively want to share, because that's a very positive expression of the Aquarian energy. So as you move through your day, say to yourself, is this service to self, or is this service to others? Because that's a very important determinant too. And it's so important also, as I do several things at the beginning of my day, some of them before I open my eyes. And as I've mentioned, the very first thing I do before I open my eyes is like a rolling mantra. Say to myself, I live in love and peace and bliss. I live in love and peace and bliss. And I just keep rolling that around my head, maybe 20 times, maybe 30 times, because that will set my tone for the day. And I will always set a clear intention that I will endeavor to be the highest expression of myself during the day. And if I run into something which is a challenge, or anything aggressive, or I feel is coming at me, I'll always take a breath. And I mean, Joe Dispenza's wonderful phrase is, what would love do? But I always think, okay, what choice would my higher self make in this moment? Because it's very easy to react and then feel, later, boy, I could have done better there. I could have handled that. So just take a breath, just gather yourself and think, what is the highest expression of response I could give at this moment? Because leadership in future, and again, it's not going to be a top-down telling people what to do leadership. Leadership in future is going to be about in integrity, kindness, and compassion. Service to others, integrity, kindness, and compassion. Really caring about other people's situations and health and freedom. These are going to be big, big principles going forwards. And I think I know this is a bit of a meander, but I hope it'll help some of you with some of this. In our society, in our lifetimes, I think polarity and division has been very much encouraged for whatever reason. It's been very much encouraged. So we've grown up in a society where it's, black versus white, or left versus right, or blue versus red, Democrats versus Republicans. I win, you lose. Always there's a situation of competition, polarity, division, and that continues. And I used to be very interested in current affairs, but now it just seems like so much noise that has gone. Shakespeare said, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. It just goes on. And do we ever get out of that? The hamster wheel, where does that ever get us? Which is why I feel we've got to raise our game to get beyond that hamster wheel of, war, death, misery, poverty. It's just awful. The only time I listen to the mainstream news is when I'm paying for petrol down at the local garage and they have the radio on. I was hearing yesterday about the cluster bombs that are being used. And, I said, how can we do this? How can we do this? We are one humanity. We are not divide and say, well, we shouldn't be. We are ultimately one humanity who 99% of the world's population want peace, want food to eat, want a roof over their head, and want human connection. Those are the really fundamental needs. And so therefore, we have to get back to what 99% of humanity wants. And that's where we're moving to. I mean, for sure, particularly on the higher timelines, that's where we're moving to. And again, I don't mean that to be a division or polarity, because we are choosing individually. Nobody forces your choice at this point. And ultimately, we're all going to come back to unity consciousness. We're all going to, whether we're in fast track or slow track at the airport, we're all going to get on that same plane. But many cosmologists believe, and spiritual people believe, that there's only one consciousness in the entire cosmos. There's one consciousness, and we are all fractal expressions, unique divine sparks of that one consciousness. So much energy is lost in the battle of polarity. And, I'm aware that I may be talking in very kind of esoteric terms here, but actually this is immensely practical. It's immensely practical because this is how the laws of physics, the quantum theory really works in a very down-to-earth, day-to-day sense. And it's very much about holding a better vision of a more loving world in your heart. And our hearts are immensely important here. Living from the heart is really more important than I can, possibly share with you. Because we are moving towards a lot of kind of heady energies. We move forwards. Pluto, as I say, is going to be in Aquarius for about 9 months next year, and then fully by the end of next year, end of 2024, into Aquarius for 20 years. And that's very intellectual. It's very much to do with scientific, technological advancement, brilliant innovations, AI, big time AI, robotics. And there is a very clear timeline on that, clear as day, that synthetic artificial timeline where that's going. And you can choose to be on that timeline. But there's another very different one, which is all about natural, organic, and really connecting to nature, I think, in a deeper way than we ever have before. And that's what the Kuiper Belt objects are about too. I've often said I never turn my mobile phone on. It's only if I need a verification code that I turn it on. Otherwise, I have it switched off the whole time. I just don't want to live that way. I've got a different method of operating where I will resist I resist that kind of drive towards AI and robotics, and you choose how you move forwards. So, and Nassim talked about this as well. He also talked about the importance of the heart. So again, quoting his words, he said, "The heart space is the source of genius. To go to the heart center is to go to the stillness, that's where we find stillness, that connects us all and where the information is present. The heart is the fundamental space for our evolution. The heart is the place from which our society will transcend its current difficulties." Well, I'm with Nassim on this, I have to say, because I think he is spot on with this. So, what I profoundly believe as well is that we create our own reality. I mean, I've banged on about that endlessly, because the frequency we broadcast, thoughts are electrical impulse, emotion is magnetic wave. Together they blend to form a frequency, and that's what we broadcast to the world. And we can't help doing that. It's impossible, as I say, to stop it. And so I've often said that the universe is just a mirror. You just get a bounce back. The universe just mirrors what you're broadcasting from your inner radio dial. And if that is the case, then logically, then our entire collective experience is the result of our collective consciousness. That has to be the case. And because we've lived a life in fear and panic and anxiety and, as I say, polarity and division, that's what we've created. That's what we've created out in the world. And so therefore, from a quantum physics point of view, this is an inside job to change our inner reality, our individual reality, but also to shift towards a different collective reality. And the more of us that do this, that can get on this kind of bandwagon of living in a much more positive way, and yes, being very focused on service to others, but living in a much more positive way ourselves, and dedicated to keeping that steady sense of peace and gratitude and compassion, we can change the world much more quickly in an energetic way than the battle. And as I say, absolutely agree with standing your ground, having a boundary line, North Node for the next 18 months in Aries is really going to help us with that. Not being so compliant as we have in the past, but getting out of this polarity and division, because it's gone on for hundreds and hundreds of years, and we are certainly up to now, not much further on, or certainly into recent history. And I got very excited just a few days ago. What I love is pulling together what I'm seeing through an astrological lens with what other people, be they experts in plasma, like Professor Robert Temple, or brilliant cosmologists like Dr. Jude Currivan, or outstanding physicists like Nassim, or people in the spiritual realm. Because I think, and I'm going to share some information with you in a moment, that we are all seeing the same thing going forwards, or some of the same solutions going forwards. We're seeing them through our particular modalities and our particular lens, but we're all saying essentially the same thing. And that's when I get excited, because this kind of click, 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 this kind of validation from very different sources. And I've filmed 3 videos with Magenta Pixie, who for many years has channeled a collective called the White-Winged Collective of 9. And I very much respect her work and her channeling of the 9. She doesn't know I'm filming this, by the way, but I'm going to put her video that I'm talking about below so you can watch it for yourself. And I got very excited. And I'm going to quote the words of the 9 here. So, because the 9 said, reality is shaped into that which mirrors your broadcasts. Exactly what I've been saying. The universe is just a mirror. You're broadcasting the thoughts and emotions for the new reality fabric. resulting in crystalline geometries that are new and unique. Remember, new timelines we've never created. These geometries are unique, new harmonics, new octaves. And the thing that really got me, because I've always thought this was going to happen through my I mean, Magenta readily admits, she said it in videos we've done together, that she doesn't have any grasp of physics. And in fact, the 9 refer to that in the video I've put below. So she's much more creative, much more imaginative than I am. But I've got some basic grasp of it. And I'd always said, and in fact, I've said it in various videos, that I thought our past would just go to dust. We'd barely remember it. It would just go to dust. And what the 9 said in this video is the previous reality skin has literally been thought out of existence. Thought out of existence. And I've been talking about starve out the scary, love in the good with your focus and attention. You know, just starve it out. You can be aware of what's going on, but don't put focused attention and engage emotionally, negatively with it. And the 9 were also saying that the lower astral planes will implode. They will spontaneously implode, and this process they seem to suggest is going on right now. So it will be as if they never existed. It will be as if they never existed. They'll just poof, implode, gone. And so the more of us that give our wholehearted attention to creating a more loving world, then the faster it's going to happen. We're building this tsunami, this new energetic hologram of positive emotion, of love, joy, gratitude, appreciation, abundance, kindness, sharing, etc. And the astrology is really helping us, not only with the discovery of the dwarf planets, but right now, I mentioned in the last update video, there's quite a rare configuration called a finger of fate or a finger of God, which is like a long skinny triangle where you have a sextile of 2 planets at the base. In this case, it's Pluto and Neptune, which is like powerful unconditional love. And they both have a quincunx to Venus, planet of love, which currently is in Leo, sign of the heart, which is conjunct Regulus, one of the 4 royal stars of Persia, with the symbolism of the heart of the lion. So we have to move forwards with the heart of the lion, the boldness, the courage, the solidity of love in our hearts. That's what's going to change the world. And every time we get together, as I say, that tsunami is building. That's that momentum. It's like this massive wave coming up the beach, getting higher and higher every time. And so, check out Magenta's video. She has no idea I'm filming this. I hope she's all right with that. But they will literally, the lower astral planes and portals she was talking about specifically, will be thought out of existence. A couple of years ago, I think it came through me at the end of a video rather than from me, but I talked about the light is the game changer and love is the checkmate. And I really stand by that. It's the light that is really changing our physiology, moving us to the light body. And if we can just stay in that frequency, it's just going to happen so much faster. If we choose a different route, it's going to be slower. It's down to the collective. It really is down to the collective, but I know which way I'm heading, and I hope some of you will come with me on that. Bit of a meander. I hope it's helped. I hope I've said things in different ways, or helped give a different perspective on something, and I will be back next time around with an astrological video and an update. God bless. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.